What's your plan to turn the campaign around?
You saw it today. How many people can you draw crowds like I drew today? You find many more enthusiastic than today? Huh?
I mean, I don't think you want to play the crowd game. Donald Trump can draw big crowds. There's no question about that.
He can draw a big crowd, but what does he say? Who's he have?
Well, guess what? They're trying to push me out of the race. No! Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race. I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
Yeah, you weren't, though, because that was 4 years ago, Mr. President.
In this video, Geraldo Rivera, who claims to be a Republican, puts on a display of extreme Trump derangement syndrome. He is so anti-Trump that he's willing to vote for Biden, right? That he is out here clamoring for the Democrats to do something, anything, to either replace Biden, for Biden to step down, or for Kamala Harris to use the 25th Amendment to force Biden out. But regardless, there's no chance that he's going to vote for Donald Trump, and that's a shame for somebody that calls himself a Republican, because typically Republicans love this country, and a vote for a Democrat is a vote to continue what we've experienced over the last 4 years, and to continue on a track that appears to be leading towards World War III. But let's go ahead and get into this. I'm going to try to cut in as little as possible, but some points I just have to say something. So anyways, let's check it out.
He also gave a round of apparently scripted radio interviews in which he appeared to identify as a black woman.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman, serve with a black president. I'm proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much that we can do because together there's nothing. Look, this is the United States of America.
Mr. President, with all due respect, to coin a phrase, you ain't black. It would be funny if it wasn't so serious.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Now, you might have noticed there that Joe Biden that was in that interview is definitely not the same person. I'm not claiming it's a different individual, but I'm just saying mentally, he's not the same person that Joe Biden is presenting today. And that's something that we all should keep in mind, because if Joe Biden stays on the Democratic ticket and is elected, which I hope he isn't, he's definitely not going to be able to make it through these 4 years. So a vote for Biden is essentially a vote for Kamala, and that's a scary thought, to have Kamala Harris running our country as the strongest, most powerful individual in the world, in my opinion. So let's just go ahead and get into this.
The president now says he needs to get more sleep and stop working by 8 p.m. And that might well be true. But on its own, it's enough to disqualify him as a suitable candidate for president, isn't it? Geraldo, great to have you back. Give me your take on this. I mean, it seems to me we're into completely uncharted territory where no incumbent president that I'm aware of has ever quit the race so late in the day. Do you think it's actually possible to happen?
I think it is barely possible, appears, and only really practically possible if Biden himself enthusiastically embraces the notion of him being replaced by his vice president, Kamala Harris. The tone of that letter that you just read your viewers, however, indicates that Biden is going in the opposite direction, even as his own party crumbles under him in terms of support for his reelection bid. He is getting more and more determined, defiant even, to stay in the race. I think it is a very sad sight, spectacle to see. You know, you're right. Old age is one of the few things you don't get better from. Biden is obviously deteriorated over the time he's been in office. He's only 8 months older than I am, Piers. I feel myself how I have slowed down. I didn't want to go to Gaza because I didn't think I could do the job because of my age and relative infirmity. To think that President Biden now has this confidence, I don't know where it comes from. It's not shared, Piers, by his fellow Democrats.
But you know, Geraldo, just what you just revealed there, you're only 8 months younger than Joe Biden, but you sound like his younger brother by about 3 decades. Wow. And that's the painful reality here. I have nothing against Joe Biden personally. I've had one conversation with him in my life. It was incredibly moving. I've nothing against him. I think he's done some good things. He's been a great public servant. But it is absolutely excruciating to now watch him in public, knowing that the media lens, which in America can be utterly relentless and ferocious, is now focused so intently on every gaffe, every mistake, every misstatement, and so on. And Geraldo, the bottom line is, if I put him up against you in a debate about the weather, you're going to win.
He has to be able to at least ad-lib a birthday greeting, a 5-minute speech, a kind of glad-handing routine. He can't have teleprompter throughout his incumbency. I mean, imagine, what's he going to do the next time he gets to Europe and he's with the NATO leaders, or he's face-to-face with Putin or Xi? And, you know, it's to me, I feel nothing but sadness. It's time for some warriors to leave the center stage. It's his time to leave. It's time for him to listen. He can't be so defiant and have his Dr. Jill Biden, his wife, make this team. We're in this forever. No one will sway us. No one will deter us. We're going to the bitter end. The problem is, it's the bitter end for all of the Democratic Party. It's the bitter end that gives the United States another Donald Trump term. There's an arrogance to his humility. I know that sounds like a contradiction, but there is this feeling that he knows better, or that Dr. Jill knows better. But just as you say, there is not a single unscripted moment, and many scripted moments as well.
Yeah.
When you says 15,000 instead of 15 million and so forth.
Yeah.
You know, you cannot have confusion at the top in these troubled times.
Clay Travis, I mean, look, this is obviously, you can tell how good this is for Donald Trump by how quiet Donald Trump has been. In fact, there's only been one kind of off-the-cuff remark. We've got a clip of it. He was on his golf cart, and he did say something to the people around him. Let's take a listen.
What did I do with the debate the other night?
Oh, amazing.
Kick that old broken down pile of crap.
Yeah.
It's a bad guy. He just quit, you know. He's quitting the race.
Is that right?
Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic.
It's so amazing.
It's just so fucking bad. So,
I just can't imagine.
but can you imagine that guy dealing with Putin and the president of China, who's a fierce person? He's a fierce man, a very tough guy.
Now, that's pretty much all Trump has been seen to say. And obviously, it was very Trumpian, the way he said it. Very hard, Clay, to deny anything that he said, though.
Donald Trump, now to your point about the Republican Party, when I left Donald Trump, who I supported through his presidency, which I think was underrated, when I left him was when he left the constitutional process. The United States has a constitutional process, the peaceful succession. That has been the hallmark of the American Republic, the peaceful continuance of a democratically elected government. What this is happening now, what is happening now, or what happened to Donald Trump then, was that he did something that was terrible. The Republicans left him as I left him, but then they trickled back to him because they saw him as the strongest candidate, and now it's like all is forgiven. I haven't forgotten. I'm not supporting Donald Trump as a result. But the Republican Party has a selective amnesia, mass amnesia. They're forgetting what happened on January 6th, and I deplore that. I think that wake up, remember that if you're going to vote for Trump, vote for him knowing that he defied the constitutional process and stabbed the Constitution in the back.
And that's where I got to cut in and say, hey, look, man, it's not mass amnesia. What it is we've had 4 years of videos coming out that's showing the Capitol Police escorting the shaman around, opening the doors, all kinds of things that have disproven the mainstream media narrative that it was this big insurrection that somehow 1 million Trump supporters who went to support Donald Trump in his last speech as president were somehow dumb enough to think that going in and taking over the building for a couple hours would prevent Biden from becoming the president. Yet left all their weapons at home, right? It makes no sense. We now know that Twitter took down the tweet of Trump saying, peacefully protest. So it's not a mass amnesia. It's we're paying attention. And we've learned and we see the confirmation of what was assumed at the time, that the mainstream media was telling us a story that was contrary to what actually happened. We've seen Nancy Pelosi come out on her daughter's documentary, taking responsibility. We know that Trump requested or offered the National Guard, and Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of D.C. both declined it. It's very obvious to those that are paying attention that what Geraldo's saying here is bullcrap. You know, Geraldo just said that he's only 8 months younger than Joe Biden. Maybe his age is affecting his memory, or it's just his Trump derangement syndrome won't let him see the actual facts, and he just wants to believe and pick and choose the parts that fit his narrative, right?
You know, I believe that firmly. But
Okay.
he is now the favorite, and he's the likely president.
I think it's as simple as the Republicans have realized Trump may win again, and it's all about power. The question of who takes over if Biden does get persuaded to stand aside, and that's pretty much it. I mean, he said at the weekend, let's play the clip actually. It's of him talking about only the Lord Almighty being able to convince him to end his bid. Let's take a look.
Look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came down and said, Joe, get out of the race, I get out of the race. The Lord Almighty's not coming down. Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test. Everything I do. You know, not only am I campaigning, but I'm running the world.
I mean, he seems to be, short of literally a thunderbolt landing on his head from above. He seems to be determined to stick this out. But if he was persuaded to step aside, is Kamala Harris the only real option, given the fact that all the fundraising that Biden's had would move to her and can't go to anybody else? Could Michelle Obama, if she could be persuaded, and I do think it's a very long shot, but if it was literally, as the Democrats would see it, a chance to save the party and the country from the horrors of Trump, could she beat Trump, do you think?
First of all, Piers, you referenced the UK politics. I think what we need is Joe Biden to have a King Edward VIII abdication moment. He's got to decide that he's not capable of fulfilling 4 long years in the Oval Office again. He steps aside, embraces Kamala during his term, embraces Kamala, maybe even steps down under the 25th Amendment, anoints her as president of the United States. She selects a vice president, and they run together in November against Donald Trump and whomsoever he selects. Michelle Obama is almost legendary proportions. It's like I remember hearing Oprah's name constantly every election cycle. What about Oprah, the most popular woman in America? Michelle Obama, one of the most popular women on earth. What about them? I have not heard one single sentence out of her mouth to affirm in any way or encourage in any way that scenario. I think the Obamas are very happy with their presidential library and their eminent position in American society, and I think that President Obama is wise enough to leave that one alone, as is the former First Lady. But I think it is entirely feasible that Kamala Harris, selecting someone like Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer or Josh Shapiro, that she could. We have only seen her giggling and being silly and avoiding, after she was given the border as part of her portfolio, ignoring or avoiding going down to the southern border of the United States. She has to step up. She has to be a much more mature person. Where is the Kamala Harris who is Attorney General?
You mean the Kamala Harris that kept people in prison longer than their sentences and used them as basically slave labor to put out forest fires? That lady? Yeah, we don't want her either.
Where was the Kamala Harris who was senator from the great state of California? Where has she been? Why, with the giggling and the unseriousness? I think that in the last couple of weeks, she's done better, and I think as a result, the polling, as I have seen it, is that Kamala Harris, is the most likely popular candidate that the Democrats could offer against
And the advantage,
Donald Trump.
Right.
of the realistic scenario.
And the advantage she has, Joe Walsh, is that all the fundraising, the hundreds of millions that have gone to Joe Biden from donors, that could automatically transfer to his vice president. It doesn't automatically transfer to any other candidates. So there is an advantage financially in doing that. But the problem is, when you say, where's she been, as Geraldo rightly says, she's been vice president for over 3 years. And the impact she's made has been utterly negligible, to the extent, as I said, that a lot of African Americans have now ditched the Democrats, according to the polls, and have moved to Trump, who many Democrats believe is the worst racist to ever occupy the White House. So I'm not buying the Kamala Harris thing. I'm surprised you're so in the tank for her, because I just can't see her beating Trump.
You know, I'm not an inspirational kind of speaker. I don't think about politics in a kind of idealistic, philosophical way. I think about it hard knocks, bare knuckles. I think what will defeat Donald Trump, who was very underrated as president, I know because I was his friend during that term, what's going to defeat him is abortion, is the malignant growth of the executive branch of government here in the United States. What's going to defeat him is the notion in suburban women in America that the Republicans are coming for your personal freedoms. That's what will defeat him. What will defeat him is hardcore retail politics. What will defeat him is the notion that he doesn't represent a majority of America. He represents, a majority of people who are of the sort that want to impose upon you their morality or their religion or their philosophy. So I think that he can be beaten. The midterm elections here in 2022 show the weakness in the Republican position. And I believe that that's the way you do it. And it can be done. And I think Kamala Harris could do it because it's in her bailiwick. She understands the issue. She speaks to the issue. She's familiar. She's comfortable. She has believed on the issue of personal freedom and abortion, reproductive rights in the United States. I think that, and with you put Gavin Newsom next to her, Gavin Newsom will be against someone like Senator J.D. Vance of my home state, my new state of Ohio. I think that Gavin Newsom will do well in that regard if he chooses to take the chance and not be dainty about it and wait 4 years for the next time. I think you got to be dirty now. You got to be elbows out now. You got to be retail politics now. That's why the president's insistence, his intransigence, his reluctance to consider leaving office or yielding at least next term to someone else, someone better equipped. I think that it's not about idealism. It's about what kind of country do you want?
Okay.
Although, Piers, I must say, I absolutely agree with you about foreign policy and him being underrated and dealing with Putin and Xi and preventing the war in Ukraine.
I want to end by asking you all the same. I want to ask you all the same question. I want to ask you all: who is the next president of the United States? Let me start with you. Geraldo.
I think the next president of the United States, and I don't say this with any joy in my heart whatsoever, is Donald Trump.
So what you just saw there was Geraldo repeating the mainstream media, the left-loving Democrat mainstream media, their talking points. He thinks that Donald Trump is going to lose on abortion, yet Trump just said during the debate that he's going to let abortion fall onto the states. There's not going to be a federal mandate this way or that. It's going to be up to the states. So you can't use that against Trump. Furthermore, his point saying that they don't want people of a certain religion pushing their beliefs on the rest of people, but yet what are they doing during June? It's Pride Month for the whole month. There's not a Christian month. There's not anything like that they fear. The reality is the religion of LGBTQ literally has more freedom in this country than Christians do, it seems like to me. Just look at schools. They want to put up the flags. They want to do all the stuff that they do there in school. But yet when Oklahoma wants to mandate that the 10 Commandments are posted and taught in the curriculum, everybody throws a hissy fit. So I'll ask you, what religion is really being pushed on people who don't want it? Because there's a lot more Christians and faith-based Americans in this country than there are LGBTQ and stuff like that. So this is Geraldo being uneducated about the facts or just lying to you. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.